Welcome to Cambridge. It's the second week of May and we've had a very long, cold spring this year, which has held things back a bit. Outside, in fact, during March in Cambridge, we had no rain whatsoever. So the tulips have had a wonderful time because they haven't had any wind or rain to ruin the flowers, and it's been cold, so they've lasted fantastically. Inside hasn't been so good because it wasn't until yesterday, when the temperature just about reached 24 degrees centigrade in here, which was a real treat, that we've actually had any decent warm weather. So things have taken a long time to get going. Today I wanted to show you this primary hybrid Cymbidium. This is Cymbidium sweet Devon sweet. It's a cross between Cymbidium devonianum, which is an Asian species which comes from cool mountain cloud forests, and Cymbidium suave, which comes from East Australia in a much warmer climate. In fact, it covers quite a wide range. I've had this a long time. It flowers really reliably every year. This year it's got more flower spikes than ever. It's not quite so good all the way round, and the back is a bit bare, but never mind. I've been growing this in this hanging basket for at least 5 or 6 years because the flowers can then display themselves really well. Sometimes the flower spikes, when they're developing, you have to just sort of release them if they get hooked up between behind a pseudo bulb or just behind the rim of the basket. Every 2 or 3 years, I take it out of the basket and take off some of the compost and put a new liner in and then replace the bark. But it's been in this same container for quite a long time. One of the things about this Cymbidium, and I would really love to grow a lot more species or primary hybrid Cymbidiums because I think they're really beautiful, is that with suave in its parentage, which comes from really quite a wide range of altitudes, it's perfectly happy in here all year round. This greenhouse is intermediate, which means that the temperature varies from maybe a really cold night, 13 or 14 degrees centigrade, up to high 20s, maybe very low 30s in the summer. So with intermediate conditions, you'd normally struggle with quite a lot of species Cymbidiums because they'd really want to be outside for the summer. I used to have more Cymbidiums and I put them outside where they thrived. The trouble is, I found when you bring them back in, they come back with all sorts of things that you don't want coming back into your greenhouse, particularly slugs. And I used to have problems. Once I brought the Cymbidiums back in here, the slugs would have a field day and any eggs that were in the compost would hatch out. They'd be tiny little baby slugs. They'd find their way into the crevices, very difficult to locate, and cause havoc with some of the orchids that were in here permanently. So this, I think, is a really wonderful hybrid. And it's not too big. A lot of Cymbidiums take up an awful lot of room, whereas this one is very compact. Oh, and I've forgotten one other thing. I've had it a long time, as I said, and I think when I was a newbie, I got a little bit confused, and somebody maybe misled me, because I thought that with Cymbidium suave in its parentage, which is sweetly scented, or so they say, this would also have some scent. It doesn't, unfortunately, no scent whatsoever, but never mind. The other orchid that I wanted to show you today is this Ascofinetia cherry blossom. It was given to me as a small plant a long time ago by one of the members of our local orchid society. Thank you, Peter. And I've had it a long time, and each year it's got better and better. Before the coronavirus, we used to have orchid shows for our local society, and this plant used to be a really reliable component of our exhibitions. This has been out now for a month, so it's very long lasting. There are just a few flowers beginning to go over now, so I just the ones that first came out, I just begin to pick those off. Since I've had it, and you can see it's in a little basket, and it's nearly all the roots are just outside the basket. It gets sprayed every day with rainwater. As I said before, this is intermediate in here. It's hung up quite high up where it gets quite a lot of light, and it's a really marvellous little plant. Some people say that it has inherited a scent from one of its parents. I have never detected any scent whatsoever, and in fact if you look on the internet, some people say it's not scented, whereas other people say it is. So sadly it's not scented, but it's such a floriferous variety, and each year it produces side shoots, so it's forming really quite a big clump. This, I suppose, is the product of about 8 years, so it's taken quite a long time, but it's a really well behaved, really marvellous little orchid.